I'm really my biggest question for you, Jude, and you can do the same thing that I just did and kind of vomit words there if you want. But why is he so like clearly on everybody's board the second better brother? If that makes sense.
I think that probably what a lot of the scouts would say when it comes to that is that he has. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but I would say to me it seems like he has the higher floor, but
Hmm.
Amen has the higher ceiling.
Okay.
Um, but honestly, Ethan, there's a lot of questions I have. I really liked his tape,
Yeah.
and for while he isn't as flashy as Amen and he's not as explosive, he makes up for it with more skills, I would say. I saw a much deeper bag whenever it came to just his mid range game. His shot, in my opinion, is a lot better. I mean, it's only, I think, 4% better. And I know that may sound crazy, like what with the emphasis I just put on it. But seriously, like if you watch the tape, if you just look at the difference in their jumpers and also just the staggering difference in the amount of catch and shoot threes that he has.
Hmm.
Granted, they're all wide open. I'm not saying he's gonna, become a contested sniper like Clay Thompson or anything. Definitely not. He's the furthest thing from that right now. But I would say that he's still a step ahead of Amin when it comes to his shooting for sure. Not only in just the mechanics of his shot, but in the amount of how many go in. I mean, I was surprised with how many were on the tape when I was watching this, and his percentage was only at 29%, which I guess means he obviously takes a lot. Um, with how many makes did pop up on tape, there must have been a lot more misses for that percentage. But I was still very intrigued with what I saw. You mentioned that 2 point percentage. The mid range jumper looks really smooth. Like the rotation on the ball. I mean, there are times where it looks like butter. He has a much more of a pull up game that he'll use off of his drives, where most of the time a Min's just going to go try to finish at the basket. And that is because he's more explosive. So it kind of fits his skill set a little bit more. But the thing about Asur is that, or excuse me, Asar, is that while he can go to the rim and still has those, finishes through contact and, can have those acrobatic like layups for sure. And there are some posters that show up on his tape also. He also has the bag and it has that smooth little mid range pull up that he can pull up that can be contested or he can make it when it's wide open. So, that's the thing, the main difference that I kind of saw between him and Amin, and I really like that honestly. And I feel like if you look at the tape and it's like, which of these twins is more like the traditional what you'd think of a Spurs player? I really think it's Asar because I think he just has a little bit more of a polished all-around offensive game. And then of course, he's a pretty solid defender too because he averaged more than a block a game, which
Yeah.
while Amin still had, I think it was like 0.8, so close to a block. I think it's like 1.4. Let me double check those stats.
1.1 for
Actually,
Asar.
yeah, 1.1, but 2.5 steals per game. On top of 7 rebounds. I wish I could see the splits for offensive and defensive there. It doesn't
Mm.
really matter that much still. And just also want to mention this is I'm getting a little bit off track here, but
No, you're fine.
6.1 assists per game, man. Like that's what I'm saying when he is a very complete player. And obviously, Amin puts up those kind of, I think like 16. He has very similar stat line, right? Where it's
Yeah.
kind of not a triple double, but a little bit above, around 7 or 6 assists on both ends. Um, and man, like the difference though, whenever it comes to them being more well-rounded, is once again, it's just his shot and specifically his creation and his sauciness in the mid-range. Like he's
Yeah.
just a little bit more crafty and he's got a little bit more fundamentals there that you don't see as much on the tape from a min. So that's why I'm saying, if you compare the tape, I really feel like he feels like more of the Spursy guy. With that being said though, I still, when it comes down to it, would say that Amin has higher potential. I don't want to make this whole thing just comparing the two of them,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but
I know what you mean.
it's still, lots of similarities in their games, though, like you said. So that's going to naturally happen.
And you can clearly see what you're saying about him being a little more polished when you look at his playoff stats. I don't have amends next to me, obviously,
Uh huh.
but he averaged 21, 5, and 5 on 50 from the 2 point range, 39 from three, and 82% from a free throw line. So he was able to step up all of his numbers. I mean, he dropped on rebounds and assists, but as far as efficiency and scoring, they all went up for him in the playoffs. I don't know how much more competitive
Right.
overtime leads playoffs are, but just reading that at face value, it's a positive sign.
Well, last year they were going toe to toe with Don Barlow. That was
Mm,
the primetime matchup.
that's a tough matchup for them, for sure.
Oh my gosh.